So.
Good evening and welcome to the December 2nd, 2024 meeting of the Richmond Common Council. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a silent prayer. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please join us in a silent prayer. Thank you. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Doug Goss.
Here.
Lucinda Wright.
Present.
Bill Engel.
Here.
Larry Parker.
Here.
Ann Turner.
And Taylor.
Gary Turner, Ann Taylor. I know that.
I'm here.
Ann
Here.
Taylor.
Here.
Jane Bumbelow.
Here.
Justin Burkhart.
Here.
Jerry Purcell.
Here.
9 are present.
Thank you.
I need to go home.
You received minutes from the December 18th meeting. Any concerns, questions, or corrections?
If there's no additions and corrections, I move that we approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the November 18th meeting minutes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
It's one of those nights, isn't it?
Want the resolution read?
Please.
Resolution number 11, 2024, a resolution renewing and extending the term of the Richmond Urban Enterprise Zone.
We have
Ed
Ed here.
Delapose.
My apologies. My apologies. Kind of new to being up here and everything.
Yes, name and address,
State your
please.
name.
Oh, sorry. My name is Ed De La Paz. I am representing the Urban Enterprise Association.
Thank you. So, fill us in.
Yes. So the Richmond Urban Enterprise Association was set up in the 1980s. It's a economic development effort around the center city of Richmond, accommodates with the Indiana State Code, and it was created kind of offer tax and incentives for businesses to move and relocate here in the zone. The UEA zone encompasses the downtown, the depot, the Star neighborhood, and all the way out to where the old hospital used to be. It does this through a state tax abatement system. So whenever a business goes to purchase a new building, purchase new manufacturing or equipment, or do repairs or improvements to businesses, they can then file with the assessor's office for this tax abatement. And then a portion of that savings over the 10 years of that abatement then goes to fund the UEA. So it's through the abatement system, and the funds then are used and allocated to basically promote small businesses, entrepreneurs, and then kind of just answering the needs of the community. So usually it's a grant application process. All the information is available on the Richmond UEA webpage under the FAQ. You can find out all the details. But several of the things that we've kind of took the initiative on in the past is providing the funding for the Richmond Meltdown, self-defense classes, tech classes for the older generation. But at the same time, we've also offered YouTube and podcasting training for the younger generation. So usually it's whatever the community is looking for, whatever they need. We can kind of provide that quick, easy grant opportunities for them. It's also a great learning opportunity. I've worked with several small businesses over the last 4 years that I've been the director of the UEA on training them on how to apply for grants. So a lot of times they can come, I can sit down, walk them through what a grant process is, and then they can then use that experience to then apply for grants at the state level or locally through the foundations throughout all of Wayne County and everything. So that's the majority of what the UEA is. I do have a couple of updates on what's have changed since the last time we've came up for renewal. Just through how the system was set up, it's an Indiana code, but every 5 years is up to the local Common Council to determine, is the UEA viable? Is there still a need for this? And then we come and ask for not an ordinance, but a resolution to say that we support the UEA for the next 5 years. So I do have to report that the employee expense credit will end in 2024. This was something that was set up through the state, and they passed a resolution in March of 2024. This was just a state tax deduction that if you worked in the zone and you lived in the zone, you could save a little bit on your tax at the state level. But that does not impact the enterprise zone investment deductions, which is the majority of the businesses that are doing the improvements, are doing the investment in the community, are applying for and everything like that. So I will say that when the UEA does, if it sunsets, if that's the decision that the Common Council wants to go with, then those abatements will basically end that year and everything. So that will be kind of one of the negatives, as that won't be another system that we have to kind of incentivize businesses to come into our neighborhoods and everything. So as of right now, there's still 14 UEAs in the state of Indiana. 6 have already been renewed, and there's 8 up for renewal in 2024. So we're one of the class that's up for renewal and everything. So I think that covers the majority of everything. If there's any questions?
Any questions, Brad?
Mr. President?
Yes, sir.
Ed, are the UEA activities with the 14 others being tracked and measured as far as how our UEA is performing our services compared to the others?
That is something that I can get the information from. There's an association of urban enterprises that we're a part of, and they do all the data collection. So every 6 months or so, they will put out the paperwork that shows how much investments are happening in all the UEAs and everything like that. We are a little bit underserved, I would say, but we're also competing with like Elkhart, Evansville, Bloomington, some of the bigger metropolitan areas in Indiana have UEAs, and we're one of the smaller communities that does. So that does give us a little bit of insight. I get some kind of some of the information about what are these bigger metropolitans are doing, and then I can bring it to the UA board and be like, hey, this is what they're doing. This is what I would like to see us kind of do to kind of support the businesses in our community.
So are you currently tracking the success of the local UEA?
Yes, yes.
Thank you.
Well, I would assume with prospective development along Main Street that we're foreseeing over the next 4 to 5 years, that there would be a lot of advantage to maintaining the UEA because all of those businesses will potentially benefit from the credits and the grants programs and whatever.
Oh, definitely. And several have, like Cordial Cork, Model T Museum, Sweet Blessings, Main Street, Susie's Pizza, Retro Rush Arcade, and it can go on and on. There's several
Perfect.
businesses.
That's what I wanted to hear.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Any other questions?
Yes, Mr. President. I'd just like to state that in being on the board this year, that Ed is very active, and the organization itself has been very helpful to many organizations in our downtown area. And we've got some great things in the pipeline. So thank you, Ed.
Well, good. Well, this is a resolution, therefore it's not going to public hearing, and it's a matter of simply someone making a motion to approve.
Second.
Go.
Who made the motion?
Doug, I second.
A motion and a second to approve resolution 11/2024. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Well, thank you for your support.
You bet.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Resolution number 12, 2024, interlocal Wayne County with Wayne County regarding $1.4 million for gorge activation project.
Good evening. Denise
Good
Rutz,
evening.
Park Superintendent.
Thank you. And I'm Jeff Plaster, the president of the Wayne County Commissioners. So we're here tonight to talk to you a little bit about the HELP program, which you, I certainly hope, have heard of over the last 2 years. We went through a planning process, and we are now implementing those projects that rose to the surface of the planning process. I'm here tonight specifically to ask you to sign this resolution. It is part of the process to commit ARPA dollars, the American Rescue Plan Act dollars that were received by the county. They have to be contractually committed before the end of 2024. They have to be spent before the end of 2026. So this document is the commitment document so that we can report to U.S. Treasury that those dollars are committed to the Gorge Revitalization Project. $1.4 million is what this resolution addresses.
Yeah, he said a lot, and I may not have to speak, no. As you know, the Gorge Activation Project is well underway. Today, we actually had our pre-bid meeting, and we had over 4 contractors in attendance. We have a lot more that have shown interest, so we're really excited about that. Just want to update you there. We look forward to receiving the bids back on Phase 1 at the Park Board meeting on December 19th, so that gives you a little bit of a timeline there on Phase 1. But the Gorge will be transformed before we know it into a major destination, and you all have a part to play in that. So congratulations. We also cannot continue our path forward through the activation of the Gorge without partners like the county. So we're very blessed. And today, as council, you have the opportunity to approve Resolution 12/2024 as it shows our partnership here with the county as an interlocal agreement, accepting these funds on behalf of the investment of the Gorge. This is not just an investment in the Gorge, it's what I like to call a game changer, because it is truly going to be a game changer for our community. The $1.4 million granted to the Gorge are funds we discussed last year, like Jeff said. At around this time, you'll remember the presentation that was given on all the projects highlighted in the HELP project and how it was going to affect everyone in the county. And so many projects have already been underway, which is exciting. So this is nothing new, but it's just time to allocate those funds, and we're really excited about that. This will be also done in incremental installments upon submission to the county in forms of invoices. I'm sure you read that in the resolution. And this is how we work with other grants, so this is also nothing new, and how we're working through the Gorge Activation Plan and the gorge projects that we're doing. So we're quite used to doing this in the scope of the projects. The completion of the project will be December 31st, 2026. That's what we have discussed, and we do not see an issue with that at all. We're working hard on the next several aspects of the activation. Very excited to see the continue of the momentum of the gorge, and we're very excited to move forward with this, and would like to see your consideration.
Any questions for Denise or Jeff?
Mr. President,
Yes, sir.
motion to approve Resolution 12, 2024.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve Resolution 12, 2024. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. I just want to also thank the commissioners and Jeff for all their help on this, and they've also been very involved in creating destinations all over the county, so great job.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Communications from the mayor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll be pretty quick. You have a lot on your agenda tonight. As everyone can see, the demolition of the former Elder Berman building is progressing on schedule. And 2 events this Friday night. The Depot District Association kicks off its Festival of Trees with an adult event, 21 and older, at Tinsel and Teeny's, 6 to 9 in the Depot building. But for everyone is a Main Street Holiday Parade. Thank you for the Main Street Association. So Friday at 7 along East Main Street. This year it'll begin at 10th Street and travel west down Main Street to 6th Street before ending around Elstro Plaza. So come out to the holiday parade, rain, shine, whatever the weather, we'll have the holiday parade, and there'll be lots of candy. So
Sounds good.
last couple of years we had some rain and still had a great turnout, so crazy.
We did.
Any questions for the mayor?
Mr. President,
Mr. Parker?
Mr. Mayor, would you explain the doors for us tonight?
I will allow Chief Weatherly to explain that if he wants to. The problem with the doors getting in the building. Did you hear that? Yes. Yeah, they shouldn't have been locked that early. Should have been locked after the meeting. But hold on.
So what we've done is we've identified some shortcomings within our staffing downstairs. The change is our info clerk, our second shift that would typically work until 10:30 p.m. Was essentially just sitting there answering maybe 3 phone calls and maybe 1 person walking in a matter of a 2 or 3 day period. So the resources that she could provide doing a different hour of the day or a different block of hours was beneficial to not only us, but to her as well. So she felt more included in the everyday aspect of her job. So with the changing of the hours, the doors will be locked in the evenings, but there are going to be some changes on people being down there, allowing that door to remain open during nights like tonight where we have a council meeting. Today is the first day, so obviously there was a little bit of a hiccup, and we will work through that. But I've already talked to the mayor. We're going to make some changes for council to have access to and from the building for meetings prior to, say, the council meeting. So you will be able to get in essentially if you need to. Public will be in plenty of time for the meetings. So it is going to be a little bit of a work in progress, but we will work out the bugs.
Will that thing be locked at 5:30?
It's not supposed to be. Today it was, because I think there was a little bit of a misunderstanding when the communication was passed to our second shift supervisors from administration. So that is going to be on me, and going forward, we'll have that corrected.
What time will it be locked?
Depending on whether or not there's an evening meeting, it'll be after, like tonight, it'll be after the meeting. if there's a Board of Works meeting, and that's the only meeting on a Thursday, it'll be locked after that Board of Works meeting.
If there is no meeting,
If there is no meeting, 5:30.
5:30? Who answers our phones after 5:30?
We have updated the phone tree, that probably hadn't been updated since probably the 90s. So anybody that calls in, non-emergent line, will be able to be directed to whatever department they may need. Emergent line, gets transferred over to our dispatch center. We've already, spoke with, Matthew Kane, the director over there. We provided numbers to show the number of calls that actually come into the police department that are non-emergent are very few. So the need to have that info clerk there answering that non-emergent line is not very essential at all. With the addition of our online reporting, the number of calls have dropped drastically. So the job description remains the same for our then second shift info clerk. She'll just be working a different block of hours during we'll say, the high traffic time for phone calls and walk-ins.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. President, 5:30 till when?
If there's no meeting in the evenings, the doors will be locked at 5:30 and they open up at 8.
At 8?
Essentially, when the city building hours of operation is when we'll be unlocked.
Are we done? Okay, thank you. Thanks. You have received the minutes from the Board of Works for the November 7th and 14th meetings. Any questions about that? Hearing none, I'm going to invite Kyle back up to give us a report.
All right, thank you, Mr. President and members of council. This evening, I don't want to take a whole lot of your time, but I do want to take a time to recognize one of our citizens within the community that has gone above and beyond to save a life. So at this time, if I could get Officer Chris Cooper to join me. Officer Cooper is the one that has nominated this individual. And then I've typed up a few things that Officer Cooper's kind of presented to us in that nomination. So on November 6th of this year, Officer Cooper was dispatched to the area of North 24th Street and Hawkins Road in regards to an individual attempting to jump off a bridge. Additional notes in the call for service indicated that the bystander had stopped and got this individual off the railing. Upon Officer Cooper's arrival, he observed the distressed individual sitting in the middle of the roadway with the bystander who was identified as Shane Carrico. Officer Cooper transported the distressed individual for additional assistance, and Mr. Carrico left the scene. Later, Officer Cooper contacted Mr. Carrico to obtain additional information. Officer Cooper learned Mr. Carrico observed the distressed individual walking and appeared to be very emotional. Mr. Carrico stopped and attempted to speak with the individual, who cursed at him and told him to leave. Mr. Carrico began to drive away, but felt this individual needed help. The individual was observed climbing onto the railing of the bridge, and Mr. Carrico was able to run and pull the individual down. Mr. Carrico then sat with the individual until Officer Cooper arrived. Officer Cooper wrote in his nomination, "Shane is a prime example of a great citizen of Richmond. Shane saved a life that moment. Days like those are tough, but allow us to be proud to serve the citizens of the city." So at this time, we'd like to call up Mr. Shane Carrico.
Thank you. We have one item under miscellaneous business tonight. It's time for us to consider appointing a new person to the Wayne County EDC Commission. Currently, Ann Fenimore is our appointee. She was appointed in 2022 for a 2-year term, which expires this year. I've had a conversation with Valerie Schaefer, and she's asked me to consider nominating Brandy Jackson, who is an employee at the Ivy Tech campus here in Richmond. As things work out, this is the year that Chad Bolzer, who's the chancellor out there, will be leaving the commission, and Valerie has asked that we consider someone from the college to replace him, and this is a perfect possibility for that. But as is always our practice, we're not going to take action on this tonight. We'll take 2 weeks to consider whether we have other alternative appointees, and at our next meeting, make a decision and move forward on it. Okay, ordinances on first reading.
Mr. President,
Mr. Parker.
I'd like to make a motion on ordinance 67, 2024, and 68, 2024, to read by title only.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to read by title only 67 and 68, 2024. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Ordinance number 67, 2024, authorizing the City of Richmond, Indiana to issue its taxable economic development revenue bonds, Series 2024 Heartland Project, and the reissuance of its taxable economic development revenue bonds, Series 2016, and approving other actions in respect thereto.
Thank you.
Done.
Good evening. Beth Fields, Director of Strategic Initiatives.
Good evening.
This is a project for General Mills for Blue Buffalo. If you'll recall, in 2016, during the process of recruiting Blue Buffalo to the area, the City of Richmond issued taxable bonds for the project in the amount of $28,619,000. At this time, Blue Buffalo is undertaking an expansion. They are doing 169,000 square foot expansion and investing $220 million into the project. And they are going to add an extruder line and 3 new packaging lines, as well as a mix and transfer system into their facility. They will also be adding 50 to 60 full-time positions during this process. They are asking the city to consider issuing bonds which would issue the remaining amount on the 2016 bonds, which is approximately $19,925,377, and then issuing new bonds in the amount of $16,500,000. Lisa Lee, partner with Ice Miller, and Jason Semler, principal at Baker Tilly, our municipal advisors, are here to provide the technical details for this transaction. Invite them up at this time.
Thank you, Beth. Good evening. Jason Semler with Baker Tilly. I believe in your packet you have some numbers that we have prepared. If you know me, I always come bringing presents, numbers to go through. So I thought I'd hit some of the highlights. Beth did a good job of hitting some of the highlights to just kind of go over those with you and to kind of show you how we arrived at some of the values and numbers that are in some of the legal documents that you have in front of you. And if you have any questions, feel free to stop me. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have. Again, there's a report dated November 22nd in front of you. If you turn to the first page, it's kind of a summary, some of what Beth hit on, and then kind of what's being proposed in the documents in front of you. So the top of the page talks about the existing situation. Again, this is regarding the Blue Buffalo project. As you know, in 2016, in order to provide an incentive to have them locate in the city, we did create an allocation area, the Heartland allocation area in 2016, and provided an incentive for them to locate here. And part of that incentive was to issue a bond of $28,619,000 that the company purchased. And those bonds are being paid back from the property taxes that they generate, and they pay both the facility, the real property, and the equipment that's invested in the facility. But at the time, we didn't pledge 100% of their taxes. You can see there, we pledged 100% of the personal property or equipment for the life of the bonds, and then 100% of the real property through 2028, and then only 80% for the life of the bonds. As Beth said, the original amount was $28,619,000. Of the bonds that are still outstanding that haven't been paid, it's a little over $20 million, the $20,229,000. You can see there the amount of TIF that's pledged towards the bonds. Starts with $1,798,000 for 2024. You can see it decreases to about $1,662,000 in 2028, and then decreases to $1,573,000 in 2029. You can see on the far right side, beginning in 2029, there's about $87,000 that the Redevelopment Commission and the city would begin to receive, that 20% of real property that's not pledged towards the bonds. That's all based upon current assessments, what the building's assessed at right now, and what the equipment the company has invested so far. Those bonds were originally anticipated to mature in 2041, but based upon the increase in investment that has occurred over the years from our original investments, we anticipate those bonds to mature in 2037, based upon this revenue stream. So as Beth mentioned, the company did come before the city a few years ago and were considering making an expansion and wanted an additional incentive for that expansion for the 169,000 square foot addition to the building, and also about $180 million of new investment in equipment. Based upon those negotiations, we determined that we'd only want to give them 50% of the new investment, or the new additional taxes they pay from the new investment. So because there was outstanding bonds and with their equipment, it would be filed under one form. It would be somewhat difficult to break out the original investment with the expansion. So what we arrived is to come up with a whole new pledge percentage. Instead of 100% for personal property and 80% for real property and then 50% in the expansion. That's something that could have been done, but would have been a semi-annual payment that would have been more cost for you and for the company. So what we decided to do is just reissue the first set of bonds, change the pledge resolution, and then come up with a whole different pledge amount of TIF. So that's what you see at the bottom there. With part of the reissuance, we have to make some significant changes to the prior terms. And one of the significant changes we made was the interest rate on the outstanding bonds. As I mentioned, the company purchased the original bonds at 0%. So what we did was we changed the interest rate on those bonds to 0.25%. And again, there's about $20,229,000 of principal outstanding. I'll show you here in a minute that they're going to pay the same amount or receive the same amount over that life of the bonds. But as you can see at the bottom of the page, in the middle, you can see the percentage pledge to the 2024 bonds. You can still see it's 100% for the first 2 years, and then it greatly decreases over the life. And that's because that's a blend of the original pledge and the 50% of the increase. And so then now you can see the estimated pledge tax increment on the left. Again, the first 2 years, about $1.7 million, increases to $2 million, $3 million, and then drops off to over $900,000. But then on the far right, you can see now the amount of revenue that the Redevelopment Commission and the city will receive on an annual basis. And that's really that 50% of new taxes that the company will pay from their expansion. And that'll be money that the Redevelopment Commission can continue to use to fund pay-as-you-go projects that are related to this allocation area for the city. So on the next couple of schedules, just kind of the detail behind that, again on page 3. Again, this shows the outstanding principal amount of bonds of $20,229,911. It shows being paid off by August 2037 based upon current revenue streams and at the 0% interest rate. So again, this is the amount of revenue that they'll receive over that time period based upon the current TIF estimates. Page 4 just shows how that's anticipated to work. It shows the pledge tax increment, as I mentioned, the 100% of personal property, 100% of real to 2028, and then starting in 2029, it's only 80%. Less the annual fees that we set aside to help pay for bank trustee fees, shows your estimated net tax increment is enough to cover the 2016 bonds that were issued. You turn to page 5. Again, two things that you'll be approving is the reissuance of the 2016 bonds. As I mentioned, there's over $20,229,000 outstanding. The new bonds will have a lower par amount. As you can see there, $19,928,285 is the estimate right now. And then we're going to be issuing a second set of bonds, the 2024 bonds. In your documents, it has a not-to-exceed amount of $16,500,000. We're only anticipating to issue $16,215,000. We always put in a higher amount in the not-to-exceed amount in case some numbers were to change, changing in timing. That gives us the flexibility to issue higher if the numbers would support it. But based upon current estimates, we're looking at funding the $16,215,000. If you turn to page 6, this shows the reissued 2016 bonds. If you remember, the total amount of principal outstanding right now is $20,229,910. If you look at the far right corner at the very bottom, the total, you can see the total amount of principal and interest for the life of the bonds is $20,229,910.59. So again, they're receiving the same amount. It's now just a combination of principal and interest rather than just all principal. And that's, again, something that we had to do to be able to reissue the bonds so we could change the pledge to make it more economical for the city and for the company as well. Page 7 shows the $16,215,000. We're anticipating that to be paid back by February 2043, which is the final maturity of the TIF area. And then page 8 kind of brings it all together under the new revenue stream based upon the new percentage, that blended, less annual fees, shows that that's enough tax increment to pay the company back for the 2016 bonds that are being reissued and the new 2024 bonds. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Questions from council?
Mr. President, you noted that currently it's on 0%, and I notice on your 2024 issuance, it's still at 0%, even though that's the new issuance. So I assume that the interest is going on the amount we're refinancing.
Yeah, the 0.25 is only on the amount that we're reissuing, correct.
Okay, thank you.
Just to make everyone comfortable up here, you don't have to actually memorize this tonight. We're going to assign it to the Finance Committee.
Thank you.
They're going to bring us a recommendation at our next meeting.
Mr. President,
Mr. Parker.
on the interest rate, when you say 0.25, are you saying 2.5%, or are you saying 0.25%?
0.25%.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Lisa Lee. I'm with Ice Miller, and we're serving as bond counsel. Just real quick on the reissuance idea here. There are only two ways to change terms on an outstanding bond. You can either refund it, refinance it, or you can do a reissuance. A refunding would require either a third party or the company to actually put the 19 or 20 million and change into an account to pay off the 2016 bonds. The company doesn't want to do that. There's no reason for them to have that outlay, even though they would get it right back. So a reissuance is the other way that we can change terms on an outstanding bond issue. And in order to do a reissuance, even though these are taxable, the IRS tax code still does have some jurisdiction over these bonds. So we have to have something that's considered a material change in the underlying terms. And so just changing the repayment term was not enough of a safe harbor for us to be able to give a validity opinion that those are still valid and binding. So we had to, the 0.25% was the least amount of interest we could apply, interest rate we could apply and be a material change to the underlying documents. So instead of the company being enriched by the fact that we had to do that, Jason and his team are playing with the par amount so that ultimately the company gets the very same amount at the very end. So it's really a technical issue that allows us to do the TIF pledge to both bonds, which is much better for the city in this case. So just wanted to kind of explain that, because reissuance is not a term that we've ever really talked about. Refunding is usually what we're doing with outstanding bonds. So I don't want to take a lot of your time. As the mayor said, you've had a long agenda here. I just want to talk real quick about the kind of the legal documentation and process in order to effectuate all of the different things that Jason has talked about. Currently, we're here tonight just for introduction of this bond ordinance. I know current council members that have been here a long time and done a number of bond issues are used to like 50-page bond ordinances. Those are ordinances in which the city is the issuer for a city project. Here, you're more of the conduit. So the bond ordinance is only about 5 pages because it's all the underlying documents which you have forms of that you're not approving tonight, but they will be approved in form if you adopt the ordinance on the 16th. That's your trust indenture, your financing agreement, your bond purchase agreement. That carries all the terms that would normally be in your bond ordinance. So that's why it's a very short bond ordinance that you have in front of you. Prior to coming back to you on the 16th, your Economic Development Commission will hold a public hearing on the project itself, so the public can speak to whether they believe this project is something that is of public utility and benefit. They will hold that prior to your meeting, and then they will make a recommendation in what they do to this council, whether to move forward and adopt the bond ordinance and go forward with the incentive, or to, if they recommend that you not adopt the bond ordinance. And then the council has a decision one way or the other. Their recommendation is not dispositive on you. You still have the opportunity to adopt it if you so choose, regardless of the EDC's recommendation. And then we'll come to you for second reading, and I know that you do have a public hearing on your ordinances on second reading. So the short ordinance in front of you, 67-24, it simply describes the project. It mentions that the 2016 bonds were issued in the amount of $28 million. It talks about the 2024 bonds. Sections 3 and 4. Section 3 is where it says that you will be approving those documents in form. And so they get completed as the bonds get finalized, bond purchase agreement executed. As long as we don't change any terms in those documents, we don't have to come back to the council for approval. So we have a maximum amount in Section 4 not to exceed $16,500,000. We have a max of 20-year term, and we have a max interest rate on the top of page 5 of 7%, but as you've seen from the numbers, the intent is that is a 0% interest rate on the 2024 bonds. So those are really the only terms that are going to be in the ordinance itself. And then the denominations, the actual amortization schedule, all that would be in the trust indenture as we finalize the bonds. So in your next meeting, should you so choose, I would be happy to point out different sections of each of the documents that you might be interested in. And you'll have some time between now and then to peruse them. Obviously, you can let Beth know if you have questions ahead of time, and I can get answers to you on those questions. So,
Any questions this evening?
I just want to thank you for your information. That's very helpful.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we have assigned ordinance, for some reason my pink is hard to read, 67, 2024 to finance. Your blue prints pink at my house.
At least it's a different color. Ordinance 68, 2024, an appropriation ordinance authorizing the submittal, acceptance, and appropriation of a grant from the Indiana Office of Community and Rural Affairs.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Pat Smoker from the Richmond Sanitary District. The Richmond Sanitary District identified several years ago that the levee around the plant, the wastewater treatment plant, was never completely finished when it was built in 1980. And we identified that as a risk. We've been working towards being able to complete and certify that levee. This submission to Okra will be for $750,000 that Okra would pledge towards that project to construct that levee. I do have one amendment that I spoke to on this project to Finance Committee tonight. Our grant consultant was also going to be bringing forth a resolution to you that would be included in their submission. And I let them know last week that I already bring an ordinance for submission to grants to council and ask if this could serve as that resolution as well instead of duplicating both processes. They said it can, as long as the fifth whereas here, which states that the district has $840,300 in its 2025 budget for the construction. They would like me to break that out into the actual funds that is in and include the money that we've already spent on design and permits that have occurred. So the $840,300 would change to read sewer, $657,760, storm, $141,790, and tax, $448,150.
So moved.
Second.
Yes, and this is preemptive, protecting the plant. There's approximately, if this was not completed and we did receive a storm that did invade the plant here, and let's assume it was a total washout of that area, it would be exceeding of $100 million of equipment, not accounting for portable equipment it would take to treat the water, and it may take us a month or 2 months to get back to full treatment. So we'd be discharging raw sewage to the river during that time, and there'd be liabilities associated with that. So although this is an expensive project, it's definitely saving us a lot of money should a flood ever occur at the treatment plant.
So have you reviewed this in finance tonight?
We did. Pat was there, we discussed it, and he brought the fifth whereas as a recommendation for an amendment, but we recommend approval.
Do you choose to move it to second reading?
I so choose.
Oh, we did.
I'm sorry.
you.
Got to vote for that.
Sorry.
Yeah.
We do have a motion and a second for the amendments that have been stated. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. AJ?
Mr. President,
Yes, sir.
motion we suspend the rules and advance ordinance 68, 2024 to second reading, reading by title only.
Second.
We have a motion to advance ordinance 68, 2024 to second reading, read by title only. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries, so I'll put this on public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak for this ordinance,
Want me
please?
to read it the second time?
I'm sorry. Yes. Yeah.
Ordinance number
Mr. Rush.
68, 2024, an appropriation ordinance authorizing the submittal, acceptance, and appropriation of a grant from the Indiana Office of Community and Rural Affairs. Now.
Thank you. This is on public hearing at this point. Anyone wishing to speak for this ordinance, please come forward. Anyone wishing to speak against this ordinance, please come forward.
Move for engrossment.
Second.
We have a motion and second to engross. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Call the question.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Second.
Thank you, Jane. Doug Goss.
Aye.
Lucinda Wright.
Aye.
Bill Engel.
Aye.
Larry Parker.
Aye.
Ann Taylor.
Aye.
Jane Bumblelow.
Aye.
Justin Burkhart.
Aye.
Jerry Purcell.
Aye.
And Gary Turner.
Aye.
All are in favor. Second reading.
Yes, ma'am.
Ordinance number 55, 2024, a special ordinance amending the zoning map for a certain parcel from Parks and Recreation to high-density, single-family residential districts to multiple-family residential district.
Good
Good evening, Council.
Good evening.
Dustin Purvis, Planning Director. Ordinance 55 is a zoning map amendment for the property addressed 1100 North Drive. This is more commonly known as the former Berryfield Park. The request would rezone this property from parks and recreation and high-density single-family residential to intense multifamily residential. The rezone would allow the applicant to merge the subject property with the adjacent Chester Heights apartment property, and with the necessary subsequent approvals from the Richmond Board of Zoning Appeals and the Advisory Plan Commission, they would ultimately extend the existing apartment complex by building 3 new buildings on the site of the former park. Common Council previously referred this request to Richmond's Advisory Plan Commission for a public hearing, which was held on November 20th. Notices of the public hearing were sent to 16 nearby property owners. We received 8 mailed or emailed responses. 1 was in favor and 7 were opposed. During the November 20th meeting, 8 members of the public spoke in favor of the petition and 4 spoke in opposition. Planning staff recommended approval of the ordinance, and Planning Commission voted 7-0 to recommend approval of the ordinance to Common Council. The Chester Heights apartments were first approved in 1963, and the area around the apartments has since developed as a mix of residential, institutional, and commercial uses along Chester Boulevard, and compact single-family homes to the south, east, and northeast of the apartments. All of the houses in the nearby Berryfield, Oak Park, and Oak Park Hills subdivisions are zoned high-density single-family residential, which the city's zoning code identifies as an appropriate adjacent zoning district for multifamily zoning. Further, while the 2023 Wayne County Housing Study conducted by Tracy Cross and Associates, along with the City of Richmond's comprehensive plan, indicate the significant need for new multifamily housing facilities in the area, there are currently very few properties within the city that are zoned for multifamily residential projects. Most properties that are currently zoned M1 or M2 are already developed, which limits the number of locations available for new, low-income, and market-rate apartment projects. Approving the present rezone request would expand the existing M2 property to the north, which is itself adjacent to the newly rezoned M2 properties at 1901 and 1907 Chester Boulevard, thus creating a cluster of multifamily zoned properties along a primary thoroughfare, which is a responsible approach to growing the city's housing options and consistent with the development of this district. I'd be happy to address any questions you might have for me. I know the petitioner and his agents are also here to speak to the project tonight.
Any questions for Dustin? Thank you. I would invite the petitioner forward to hold forth on this project, Mr. Moore.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Gordon Moore, Beals Moore and Associates, 122 South 8th Street. I'll try not to duplicate what Dustin just covered, so I'm sure that Mr. Turner's heard it enough. So there's 3 other people that are going to speak besides me, and one of them will be from the Park Department, Park Board, and he will address the how and why that this property is being offered up for development. I'll leave those details to him. So I'll just concentrate on the site itself. As Dustin said, we're going to put 3 new buildings on approximately 1.75 acres. The 3 buildings will contain 72 units. As shown on sheet 2, the new entrance will come through into this development from the north, and where the swimming pool's at, that swimming pool will be removed and a new entrance will be constructed. We've worked with the fire department to make sure that we're going to have adequate room to get in and out. All utilities are available. There's water on the north line that was constructed during the phase here the last 2 or 3 years where we put 4 new buildings in Chester Heights. There's an existing sanitary along the east side of the line of the property that we will connect these buildings to. There's a large 30-inch storm sewer which runs through the middle of the property. During construction, we'll make sure that there is no runoff into adjacent properties. I think it's Rule 1 now. It used to be Rule 5, but Rule 1 restricts any erosion off of our property onto adjacent properties. Following construction, all water will be diverted into catch basins, which will discharge into an underground detention basin. That detention basin will be underneath the parking lot, the new parking lots. We've used this method a number of times. I always point out Gallows, when you pull in the front of Gallows, you're sitting on a large detention basin. This will be similar to that. After construction, there will be no storm runoff onto the adjacent properties. We'll make sure it's all self-contained. We've been working with Darvin Lemon from RP&L regarding the electrical service across the north line of this property as an overhead power line. Will provide us service. Sheets 3 and 4 are examples of what the new units will look like. The exteriors of the building will be very similar to the exterior of the 4 new buildings that was constructed recently. Commitments from the developer will include planting evergreen trees along the perimeter of the track on the southeast and west side of the campus. It was brought to our attention that the trees that were planted the last time didn't take real well. We think that may be because we cut 40 foot of that hillside out to construct those buildings, and we got down to just pure clay. So what the developer is recommending, that we put a small berm around the entire perimeter. We'll use topsoil, and the trees should grow to their maximum size rather quickly and not have the problem that we had before. So they've also committed that there's 2 10-foot walkways, one coming from the east and one coming from the south into the park area. The developer will block those off to make sure that no traffic from the new development will go into the existing subdivision. I have talked to Dustin about the possibility of vacating those in the future, but that'll be down the line as we proceed. But if we do vacate those, we'd have to have the agreement between the 4 adjacent property owners, and then the 10-foot would revert back 5 foot on each side back to the property owners. So, like I said, I've got 3 more people who'd like to speak, but I'll answer any questions you might have.
Any questions for Gordon?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Gordon.
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the council.
Good evening.
Hi. My name is John Moore. I'm an attorney with the law firm Toohey, Bailey & Moore in Indianapolis. Our address is 50 South Meridian Street, Suite 700, Indianapolis, Indiana, 46204. Our firm has represented Mr. Jake Powers for several years. Indeed, we were involved in the initial purchase of Chester Heights and the renovation he did there on phase 1 of that building and redevelopment. And he's asked me to come up here and say a few words. In my practice, I represent several residential developers, from small private developers to large publicly traded companies, both single-family and multifamily developers. And what we see, and I think what this council is aware of, is there's a great need throughout the state of Indiana for housing at this time, both single-family and multifamily. In my practice, I'm seeing that need met a lot in the larger metropolitan areas, Indianapolis, the suburbs around Indianapolis, Fishers, Carmel, Noblesville. We're seeing a lot of activity in development of both single-family and multifamily. There also remains a need in several of the other communities throughout the state of Indiana, communities like the city of Richmond. And I just want to point out, I think it's commendable that a private investor developer like Mr. Powers, who was born here, raised here, he continues to make large investments in his hometown to help meet its housing need here. It speaks volumes to his commitment to the city of Richmond. And because of that and the need that this city has, I respectfully request that you vote yes on this rezoning proposal to allow this project to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Jake Powers. Place of business is 1817 Chester Boulevard. And I know you guys have heard several people talk about the housing need that lies in Richmond. There's been many studies done. It's one thing to see those things, and it's another thing to own a property and see it every day. As an example, in the month of November, we turned away 31 qualified tenants in Chester Heights, 31. Of those 31 tenants, over half of them had addresses that were outside of the city of Richmond. That's how bad the housing need is here. When I first bought Chester Heights 5 years ago and started turning the units, completely renovating the interiors, I really couldn't believe the feedback, how positive it was. So much so that obviously I built 96 brand new units. Those new units were completely leased before we opened the front doors. And I think with you guys' approval, the same will hold true for these 72 units. I think it's a very positive step in the right direction. Appreciate the consideration.
Questions for Mr. Powers? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
I'm Dakota Collins. I'm the Director of Community Relations at Earlham College and the aforementioned Park Board member. Berryfield Park represents unique challenges that have been clearly outlined in the Parks and Recreation Master Plan that was completed and then adopted by the Park Board in October of 2020. The plan states, "The location of Berryfield Park is both a strength and a weakness. While there aren't any vehicular barriers to pedestrian access, the public park feels very private, and there aren't any, very private and unwelcoming for non-residents, and here they mean non-neighbors. Access to the park is severely limited. Visitors must enter from the Chester Heights Apartments entrance or through a backyard easement. Minimal parking is available at the north entrance to the site. However, it's unclear to the public what kinds of amenities are offered at the park, and many people don't even know it exists. As we're all aware, the Parks Department and the dedicated team members therein work tirelessly day in and day out to do more with less. With 19 public parks, including Berryfield, spanning 1,100 acres and ever-dwindling resources, our parks team cannot continue dedicating time and funds to an underutilized, unattractive, and inaccessible field. Don't get me wrong, I think I can speak on behalf of the entire parks team when I say we would love if every neighborhood in Richmond could have an active and beautiful park in their backyard. But it's beyond clear that isn't realistic. It's been suggested, and I think fairly so, understandably so, that the Parks Department should spend more time and funds promoting the property to get more use out of it. But this overlooks the simple fact that our parks team is already strapped for cash, managing and promoting parks that appeal to and attract a wider array for our citizens and visitors than a backyard field. As such, the master plan makes a single recommendation for Berryfield. Quote, "Consider selling to focus funds where they're needed most." So following this guidance, we engaged in a comprehensive and deliberate process that's guided us in similar situations. The Park Property Committee met to consider the issue. This includes 2 Park Board members, 2 members of Common Council, the Mayor and City Attorney, the Director of Strategic Initiatives, and the Park Superintendent. A discussion was held in a public meeting of the Park Board, an appraisal of the property in question, and then approval at multiple necessary levels. This process ensures transparency and strategic alignment for the goals of our community. This rezoning and sale will unlock new potential for this site and directly support a critical community need, high-quality housing. Under the stewardship of Richmond native Jake Powers, Chester Heights will add much-needed living options. This aligns directly with efforts like Revitalize Richmond, which focuses on enhancing our city's infrastructure and creating an environment where residents and businesses can thrive. Earlham, which is proudly called Richmond home for 177 years, is a strong advocate for this sale and rezoning. Earlham is one of the longest-standing institutions in our area, yet a growing number of its employees are living outside of Richmond and Wayne County. And that's not necessarily by choice, it's by necessity due to the limited housing options available. As someone who gives a lot of tours to prospective employees, I have a lot of fun having really great conversations about all the amenities and assets that Richmond has. But inevitably, the conversation turns to housing, and the conversation becomes a little challenging. The demand for quality, accessible housing is real. and it impacts our ability to attract and retain talented professionals. The proceeds from this sale will also benefit the community by being reinvested in Middle Fork Reservoir, which is the closest park to the Berryfield neighborhood. Middle Fork is, as you all know, a regional treasure. It has a great playground and trails and a ton of other amenities, but it's suffered from deferred maintenance, such as launch pads that have been out of commission for 2 seasons. Why? I mean, you all approve the budget. You know we simply don't have the funds. This investment allows us to address critical needs and ensure Middle Fork continues to serve as a valuable resource for outdoor recreation and connection. In essence, this property has to be sold. Speaking on behalf of the Park Property Committee and the Park Board, and I think I can go so far with their approval to say the Plan Commission, we believe that that Jake and Chester Heights will put this property to its best use for the Richmond community. But truly, this rezoning is not just about a property sale, it's about creating opportunities. Opportunities for Richmond residents to find quality housing, for Earlham and other top employers to attract top talent, and for the city to build on the momentum of projects like Revitalize Richmond. It's a clear step towards realizing the shared vision of a vibrant and thriving community. So I encourage your support of this rezoning, and I'll take any questions.
Any questions? I will say this about this. We are actually in public hearing now. And I'll take that to be one that's for.
I put it down.
Thank you, Dakota.
Thank you. Are there any other folks who wish to speak for this project? Oh, my God.
Good evening. My name is Sarah Mitchell. I'm with the EDC of Wayne County. Our address is at 900 Northeast Street in Richmond, Indiana. And I will not rehash a lot of the points that have already been brought up, so I'll condense my statements. But housing is a critical need in Richmond and Wayne County. According to the most recent housing study, not only are there less than 1% vacancy at our apartment complexes, we have over 12,000 people that commute here regularly that do not live here. So opening up opportunities, as Dakota mentioned, is important and vital to the growth and economic growth of Richmond. I've met with Jake Powers many times about this project. He is a very responsible developer, and this will be a great adjustment to the area that has had some decline in the park and its maintenance. So this site does offer a very unique opportunity to continue the multifamily zoning district that is adjacent to the north. It also opens up a unique opportunity to expand the multifamily zoning district, as Dustin mentioned earlier. It is extremely difficult for us as we have developers come and visit us that want to develop in Richmond, and we don't have the zoning applied to the map. A lot of them don't want to go through the zoning process. So I know that as a part of the new comprehensive plan process, you'll be looking at that, so that will be very beneficial. But for tonight, it does just open up this really unique opportunity that you have this vacant land right adjacent to a multifamily district directly to the north. Again, some of the key reasons for the apartment development in Richmond are economic growth. New residents moving into apartments can stimulate local economy and counteract population decline, which we've seen for many decades. Developing apartments can also attract young professionals into a small city like Richmond, as the attorney stated earlier, boosting our local workforce, and in addition, can offer an alternative for empty nesters that would then open up housing in existing neighborhoods. The land use efficiency of apartments utilize land in a way where it allows for more housing units to be built in a smaller space. And also it helps to diverse the housing options that are here in our small city of Richmond, where they offer a variety of sizes and layouts, catering to different lifestyles and needs. So that's all for tonight, but I recommend you approve the project. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Anyone else in the for category?
Evening. My name is Melissa Matney, and I'm with First Bank Richmond, 31 North 9th Street. I have worked with Jake Powers for well over 15 years as a commercial lender, and currently work with him and will be working with him and partnering on the current project at Chester Heights. So just want to speak to his character as a developer and from a financial standpoint, just working with Jake. Started out working with him on smaller projects in the Indianapolis market where he initially started out making his investments and then had the opportunity to come to Richmond. So that I think says a lot about his interest in the community and trying to grow his portfolio. He has shifted his interest here to Richmond as opposed to doing other things outside of the Richmond area. So I'm here to basically just support him and state that I feel like it has been a great project, not only for the bank as a partner, but feel like this is a great project for the city of Richmond. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Jason
Good
Troutwine.
evening.
I serve as Vice President at Reed Health, located at 1100 Reed Parkway. I'm here to speak in favor of this project. I think this is my 5th time to speak to this group over the course of the year about the same topic. But our reason for being here is the same reason it was back in the spring. Housing is a major issue for us from a recruitment perspective. It's one of our major obstacles when it comes to bringing people into the community and retaining our talent. Currently, we have about 200 job openings at Reed. 150 of those require a medical credential. So when it comes to recruiting people who have a scarce skill, it's hard enough to get them, but it makes it a lot harder when we don't have housing that's ample for them to live in. I won't go into all the details, but a couple of weeks ago, actually I was sitting down talking with one of our new directors. He's the director for operational excellence at Reed. This person came to us from Canada. He is a Six Sigma Lean certified. He has an engineering degree, high wage earner. Came to our community. I was talking with him. I asked if he had gotten settled into the community, and he said, "Yeah, actually, I live at Chester Heights." And he said that's going to give me about a year to get acclimated with the community, figure out if this is where I want to stay, and if it is, then for me to find a house and do all those types of things. And I think that's an important piece of this. Right now, we have 41 Reed employees who live at Chester Heights, and it's everything from young professionals to people like this person who probably makes around $140,000, $150,000 a year. But those apartments, those market rate apartments, provide a diversified housing opportunity for all different walks of life. And it gives us a chance for some of those folks to be an entry point into our community so that we can get them at Reed and other places of employment. And so maybe they might call Richmond their long-term home. So I think that it's really important to know that market rate apartments is a big piece to this puzzle that we're all trying to figure out. And I hope that you'll vote in favor. And also, just real quick, when I was at IU East, I had a chance to work with Jake a little bit as he was renovating Chester Heights. I don't know how many of you saw them before Jake purchased them, but I wouldn't be up here talking about this right now if that's the way it was. But what Jake has done with that apartment complex and the investments he's made, it's been pretty dramatic. And he was always about our students when I was at IU East. Always, how can we make this better for the IU East students? For someone to come back to their hometown, make this kind of investment, I think he's doing it for the right reasons. He's not someone just trying to make a bunch of money off of us. He's someone who's trying to make his hometown better, and I think that's a really great thing. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good evening, Council. My name is Roxy Deer. I'm a resident of Richmond, Indiana, but tonight I'm here as the Executive Director of Richmond Neighborhood Restoration. As many of you know, we purchase historic homes and buildings in hopes of turning them into living, great housing options for our community. R&R is busy building living units in downtown Richmond and in the Star neighborhood currently, and those will fill when they are put on the market easily. We've never had a problem selling any of our properties, but those aren't enough. We need more housing that is both diverse in its style and strategic in its placement within our city. These apartments are just one of many solutions for our beautiful community. They will attract people to live here, as you heard Jake say. And that means their dollars stay here, which we all love, right? As many have already said tonight, these apartments are needed. As a young professional with many young professional friends, I can easily say that home ownership is not the modern dream. With their ever-changing careers and job opportunities, the leasing opportunity that gives you the opportunity to leave quickly or to move quickly is a truly inspiring opportunity. They come with lower levels of maintenance, no yard work, that's a big thing for me, beautiful and safe housing. Safe is a word I want to highlight here. I currently have a few friends living in the newer Chester Heights apartments, and all have renewed their leases for multiple years. While they are all excited to have the modern housing close to amenities, many of them work at Reed or are students at the local universities, it was when I asked them today, why did you choose to stay there? All of them said it was safe. They felt safe in that community and in those apartments. The younger residents are using that extension of their leases to plant their roots further into our community. They're finding jobs here. They're graduating college and beginning to work at our local businesses and our healthcare facilities. One day they will want to buy a beautifully restored home by a fabulous nonprofit, but for right now they're enjoying the easy way of living in an apartment with less responsibilities while they focus on their careers and starting their families. I encourage council to think about our future residents, their needs and wants, and how this will impact our community in the next years. Thank you.
Thank you, Roxy.
Anyone else for?
Good evening.
Good
Mark
evening.
Broker, 5989 Cart Road. I think this is about the 5th time I've stood here with you guys or some committee to talk about housing, which is exciting, but today it's pretty simple. As a young professional, father, someone that's involved in the community, housing takes a lot of options. It's not a one-size-fits-all. It's not a, let's just build a bunch of houses. There's different levels. But to me, Chester Heights is an example of what the future of a prosperous and growing Richmond truly can be. We have an individual that invested back in its hometown when he could have easily said no. Not only did he do that, he redid the apartments that were there. Then, after those were completely taken, he said, hold on, let's build more and let me reinvest into my community again. Now with the long wait list, he's ready to invest again in his hometown, not Indianapolis, not Carmel, not somewhere else, but right here in Richmond. And the apartments will be leased before they're done. That's hard to say in a lot of places, but that is true in Richmond, Indiana, a place where we all call home, and that's where is going to be part of the future and part of the story. A downtown that's changing, housing complexes that are now becoming reality, and now apartments is another layer to that. And my last point here is Chester Heights Apartments has different professionals that live there, different groups of people, from nurses to doctors to healthcare professionals, but then to retired individuals, to individuals just right before they're going to actually buy a home, to individuals that just want to live in Richmond to see what Richmond is like. They don't want to make the full plunge into buying a house, but to live here. And as soon as we get them to live here, they will stay. It's proven time and time again by people. And these individuals, once they're here, they're going to invest in stores, nonprofits, they're going to attend events, their kids are going to go to schools right here in our area. So I urge a yes vote to continue taking these steps forward to help continue a new day for Richmond and Wayne County, where we're seeing when we tackle hard topics together, the future has never been more bright and more prosperous than we have right now. Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Melissa Vance, President and CEO of the Wayne County Area Chamber of Commerce, located at 33 South 7th Street here in Richmond. I have also been here many times, and you've heard a lot about workforce and those sorts of needs, which go right along, obviously, with what the chamber stands for. Population is a big issue as well, because we don't only need workers, we need our population to grow and to thrive, to support the businesses that are already here and to continue investing in the nonprofits that are here and the services and volunteerism, et cetera. I want to tell two stories of close family friends or family that have chosen to move into Chester Heights apartments in the last couple of years. First is a close family friend who is a retired individual, has some mobility issues, and she chose to lease one of the apartments on the first floor in one of the new buildings. She is thriving in this scenario. She loves being there. She loves the activity. She loves talking to people as she comes and goes. It is exactly what she needs, the exact size that she needs, and the maintenance-free aspect that she needs. We were able to keep an individual in an independent living situation because of those things. And for that, I'm grateful just for that opportunity. Next, I want to talk about something that's a little bit closer to home. My niece, who graduated from Centerville, moved to St. Louis, lived out there for about 4 years, attended college. She fully intended to stay out there. She met a boyfriend out there. They've been working out there and decided recently that they wanted to come back home. They started looking around for a place to live and really were coming up short, much like you have heard this evening. Thankfully, they were able to move into one of the apartments at Chester Heights. And because of that, they have moved here. They both are working in steady and good jobs in this community. And I'm thankful because we have family members back home, and it's that story, much like my own and others that we all know of, that are comeback kids. Move away, experience life, but choose to come back home. We have to have places like this that enable that entry point for them to come back. So I encourage you to approve this evening.
Thank you very much, Melissa.
Hello, Mary Walker. I'm Director for the Wayne County Convention and Tourism Bureau. I live at 100 Southwest 10th Street, Richmond, and I will absolutely keep my comments brief. I know some of you may not believe that, but you know, there's been so many things mentioned tonight that are so important, and one of the things that I'd like to just reiterate is the track record that Mr. Powers has in our community. Being a native is phenomenal, and reinvesting in our community. This project is 100% private investment, which means we'll positively add to our tax base in a private investment way. When we talk about the need for housing and all types of housings, it was wonderful news about the expansion of Blue Buffalo. They're going to be adding 50 to 60 jobs. Hopefully there'll be jobs that our locals will fill, but also some that come in from out of town and make Richmond, Wayne County their home. So from the multifamily housing needs, waiting list, it's an awesome thing to have a waiting list that when this is opened and ready, that they have people there ready to take on. There's so much, as you all know and have been involved with, so much momentum that is happening right now, whether it's the HELP program, the Earlham Lilly grant, the Elder Bierman's project. I mean, there's just so much. It's so exciting. And I would just ask you to keep that momentum going. These kinds of new opportunities create not just enhanced enhancing our tax base, but also amenities and services and keeping that population growth that we really need to continue focusing on, because that helps all of our community and all of our citizens. So I would just close by saying thank you for your participation in this, and would ask you to vote favorably on the rezoning. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary.
Anyone else? Okay, anyone here to speak against this project? Going once. Anyone wishing to speak against this project? Hearing's closed.
Move for engrossment.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to engross this ordinance. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Call the question.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Doug Goss,
Aye.
Lucinda Wright,
Aye.
Bill Engel,
Aye.
Larry Parker, Ann Taylor,
Aye.
Jane Bumblew,
Aye.
Jason Burkhart.
Justin Burkhart.
What did I, oh God, I'm going to sleep.
You one of these.
Justin, yeah, Burkhart.
Aye.
Jerry Purcell.
Aye.
Gary Turner.
Aye.
All are in favor. Even Ann
jeez.
Turner. Okay, 64, an appropriation ordinance authorizing payment for services from the Richmond Sanitary District, Roseview Transit, Richmond Power and Light, Motor Vehicle, Highway, and Park and Recreation Department funds to the general fund in 2025.
Good evening again.
Good evening.
As we said last time, this is just a housekeeping ordinance. This was passed previously in 2016. It expired somewhere in 19 or 20. All these departments have just been honoring the old ordinance. We're just bringing it back forth, like I said, for housekeeping and to update these values. I did find out, however, between first and second reading, that portion 5 here, Roseview Transit's portion of this, that Roseview Transit no longer is applicable for this. NDOT does not really recognize these types of interlocal agreements. They have very tedious rules on paying these types of things, and therefore, the last couple of years, in the expiration of the old ordinance, Roseview has been pulled out from this, and this was factored in by Controller McGinnis during the budget process for 2025. It just was included in this update of this ordinance.
So do we need to amend the ordinance?
Yes.
That's all I have unless
Any
there are
questions for Pat? Anyone wanting to make a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. President, I also move that we strike Roseview Transit out of the introduction into the ordinance itself or in the title.
Second.
It's true.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Now,
All in favor?
Finance looked at this.
Yes, we did, Mr. President. And we heard from Pat, we, aside from striking what he called part number 5 and Roseview Transit, we recommend approval.
Second.
I move to
Public hearing.
the agenda, advance this to second reading.
It is on.
We're on second. So,
It is a
I would call it for a public hearing at this point.
All right, you're right. I'm about half awake.
Gary needs
Public hearing.
I need a nap. Let's go home.
Anyone wishing to speak for this ordinance, please come forward. Anyone wishing to speak against this ordinance, please come forward.
Move for engrossment.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to engross this ordinance. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Call the question.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Doug Goss,
Aye.
Lucinda Wright,
Aye.
Bill Engel,
Aye.
Larry Parker,
Aye.
Ann Taylor,
Aye.
Jane Bumblew,
Aye.
Justin Burkhart,
Aye.
Jerry Turner. Jerry, God, I can't believe it. I'm going to go home. Jerry
My cousin
Purcell,
is
Gary
dead.
Turner.
Aye.
I was waiting to see who I was.
It's okay, Sharon.
I'm looking at both lines together.
I'm an aye.
All are in favor. All of you are in favor, like it or not. Ordinance 65, 2024, an appropriation ordinance amending the 2024 budget.
I can't believe we made you stay here all evening for this.
Not happy about that, no.
Just be honest.
Good evening. I'm Kenyatta Cox, the Human Resource Director, and as part of my role, my office manages the city's insurance programs, as in like the commercial and workers' compensation coverages. I'm here tonight requesting an ordinance appropriation for that said coverage. When it was estimated at the end of '23 for what the insurance costs were going to be for 2024, they estimated like a 10% increase. It ended up coming in over that once the year progressed in terms of operations, employees, and with properties. And so I'm here asking for that gap coverage there that we weren't able to fill. So that's really it.
Thank you. We have a recommendation.
Mr. President, we did hear from Ms. Cox, and we recommend approval to reappropriate $111,969.14.
Then I will put this on public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak for this ordinance, please come forward. Anyone wishing to speak against it, please come forward.
Move for engrossment.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to engross this ordinance. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Call the question.
Second.
Please call the roll.
I'll do it slowly. Doug Goss,
Aye.
Lucinda Wright,
Aye.
Bill Engel,
Aye.
Larry Parker,
Aye.
Ann Taylor,
Aye.
Jane Bumbelow,
Aye.
Justin Burkhart,
Aye.
Jerry Purcell,
Aye.
Gary Turner.
Aye.
All are in favor.
She got through it.
She got it.
We're starting to get good.
Move for adjournment.
I don't think we have any, I hope we don't have any unfinished business.
Move for adjournment.
Oh,
Second.
we do have some signatures.
And, yeah, everybody has to sign them.
Right.
Second.
And then we have RP&L.
Sharon?
All those in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
She doesn't even know.
You are watching Whitewater Government Television, WGTV, Channel 11, part of the Whitewater Community Television family of stations.
Good evening, and welcome to the Richmond Power and Light Board meeting for Monday, December 2nd, 2024. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Doug Goss.
Here.
Lucinda Wright.
Present.
Bill Engel.
Here.
Larry Parker.
Here.
Ann Taylor.
Here.
Gary Turner.
Here.
Jane Bumbelow.
Here.
Justin Burkhart.
Here.
And Jerry Purcell.
Here.
All are here.
Thank you. Next, we have approval of the minutes.
Madam Chairman,
Yes, sir.
if there are no additions or corrections, I move that minutes of November the 4th be accepted.
Second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next is bills to be approved.
Madam Chairman,
Yes, sir.
Finance Committee has reviewed the bills and moved for approval in the amount of $7,471,285.99.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the bills of $7,471,285.99. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next, we have any unfinished business? Nope. Report by the general manager.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
We do have quite a few items of business tonight. The first item on the agenda is to open bids on two 138 kV large power transformers for the Richmond substation as previously budgeted in the 2025 capital budget. So we're simply opening tonight. Later in the evening, we're going to ask you to approve the 2025 capital budget. So if that is approved, we'll be able to make award on these potentially at the next meeting. But first off, we do have the publisher's claim. We did advertise twice in the month of October. Due to the scope of this project, we gave the bidders 2 months to prepare their bids. So I would request approval of the publisher's affidavit.
Okay.
So moved.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, so again, this is for two of our large power transformers. This is the excerpt, as I open this, that if you, since I got quite a few, if you want to go through that, that's what we had in the 2025 capital budget explaining the need for these transformers. So I'm going to open these and read them aloud. This is from Pennsylvania Transformer Technology, LLC. Lump sum bid of $2,725,754. The next part of this is for unloading and installation of $270,000. Now, granted, there's discussion that will be had on this because usually what they do, they require a portion up front and then progress payments throughout. So when you look at our budget number that we have presented there, that's why it's not for the full amount. That's in our capital budget for future years, because this, we anticipate these also will be a multiple year wait time. This is from Hitachi. Okay, so missing from the package is the bid proposal form and the Form 96. So they said that they didn't have enough time to get that to us, so this bid will be invalid. We don't have anything to
Okay.
read.
At least they sent it.
At least, yeah, they sent us, must be the technical specs, but there's no, their note on top says, we don't have a bid bond, a bid proposal form, we didn't complete the standard form, Form 96.
I'll get my report.
Yeah, so unfortunately, we may not be able to consider that. Or definitely want us to know it's sealed. This is from Delta Star Corporation out of Lynchburg, Virginia. Oh, goodness. I apologize. There's probably a bid form in here somewhere.
Here. Got a book. They did. They sent a whole.
But I'm not seeing it. There it is. Lump sum bid for transformer, $2,822,262, for testing and field work, $110,921.
What was it, what was the amount?
$2,822,262. And if you'd like, we do put together a bid tabulation form. I can email that to you once we have.
That would be wonderful. Thank you.
Thank
Now, that is for the pair.
I think that's each. Yeah.
Each?
Yeah, I went too far ahead there. We were expecting, yeah, we were expecting 3 million each, so.
Yeah.
Free shipping.
What's that?
Free zip, Amazon.
Free shipping.
Free shipping? Wait, yeah. Let's see here. This one is from the future. I'm going to require that they put the bid tab sheet on the front. Directions. Lump sum, we're getting closer. $2,664,381 each, with $158,000 for the for the field work, $158,268.
Which one was that?
I'm sorry, this is OTC Services. Their address is listed as Louisville, Ohio.
Are all the specs the same on these transformers?
Yeah, that's what we will be confirming, is that they are bidding apples to apples, so, but they absolutely should be. All right, we're just gonna poke a hole. VTC out of Nebraska, Virginia, Georgia transformer. No, it's not Nebraska, I'm sorry. Still looking for the city. I assume Virginia because it's Virginia Transformer Corporation, but we'll take a look. And their lump sum each is $2,481,425, with their field work at $581,000, but that's for two of them, so it would be half of that. So what would that be? $270,500 is their field work component of that. And one more. This is also from Virginia Transformer, so I'm wondering if there's something unique about why they sent us to. Close, I promise.
Better offer for you.
Yeah, Yeah, two different people
Don't
sent
open
them.
this unless you don't like our first one.
Getting close there, aren't we? Looks like this is the same amount, so maybe they just sent us 2 copies in 2 separate envelopes, but $2,481,425 with the same amount for the field work, 581 divided by 2. So that's what we have. So what we would request tonight is that you give us permission to take back and do a deep dive into these and come back with a recommendation in the future.
So moved.
So moved.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion approved.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next thing on the agenda is our first quarter 2025 ECA. The residential ECA decreases by 0.005314 cents per kilowatt hour. Basically, that is a half cent. So it's currently at 0.016178, and it will be going down to 0.01864. So basically, going from about 1.6 cents per kilowatt hour down to just over a penny per kilowatt hour. So we always like to hear those types of
Yes.
that positive news.
Very
So
good.
we are requesting approval of the first quarter ECA cost adjustment.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda, on November 12th, we met and we spent 2 hours going through the budget. So I've condensed everything down to one slide tonight for you. So basically,
Thank you.
what we reviewed was pretty much a status quo budget with adjustments noted during that detailed budget presentation on November 12th. Some noteworthy changes for next year include funding for a new rate study. This is found in the general manager's budget. There are additional funds for ongoing system studies for potential new intertie substation in the future. So again, this is just, we need to continue the planning process. 2025 is a negotiation year for our union contract. We're at the end of our 3-year contract this year. So there are some legal fees increased in the HR budget. And all of our capital items were also discussed during the budget meeting. We did go through all the 2025 capital items, but the budget books do have a 3-year capital plan included. We're looking at total income of around $95,168,883. Total expenses after adding back the non-cash portion of GASB, which we discussed that evening, with a net income of about $690,085. It's rare that we spend our entire operating budget, but we do budget for those emergencies and those what-if situations. And we also, our budget was based conservatively on a moderate amount of sales for next year as well. A lot of factors go into that, including the weather. So we never like to overestimate sales, and we budgeted conservatively for that, but would still show a small net income. And I would have entertain any questions you have for us on the 2025 operating and capital budgets.
Any questions?
Motion to approve proposed
Second.
2025 capital and expense budgets.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the proposed 2025 capital and expense budgets. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And the last piece related to the budget is similar to what you do on the city council side of things. We have provided you with the resolution number 1, which is the salary and hourly ordinance for all RP&L employees. This year, per the union contract, as negotiated back in 2023, this year is a 3% increase for all employees. Entertain any questions you might have.
Any questions?
Motion to approve resolution number 1, 2024.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve salary resolution 1, 2024. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And finally, since this might be our last meeting for the year, we'd like to recognize our board chair and all of the hard work that she put in this year. So I've enjoyed working with you, Jane.
Thank you very much.
I have once again continue with our tradition of breaking tradition. And, we have our cross arm and
That's cool.
Oh, I like that.
insulator for you.
Thank you. Boy, that's heavy.
So if you're wondering what that actually is, it's that component on your power line. So tomorrow when the sun's up and you look up, that's what Jane now has in her living room mantle, is that.
There you go. Well, thank you, Tony.
Thank you, and I've enjoyed working with you and enjoyed working with all of you this year, so thank you very much.
It's been a pleasure.
For everything that you've done. So. And I'd entertain any questions you have for me tonight. That's all I had prepared for this evening.
Oh.
Move for adjournment.
Second.
Motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
What's in these bags back?
You are watching Whitewater Government Television, WGTV, Channel 11,